Hello and welcome to Wellness Wednesday. I'm James Currie with the Communication Department. Talking to Stephen Schottgen. He is a behavioral health provider here at MCHD and Family Health. Stephen, how are you?
I'm well, and you?
Never better, as I like to say. Today's topic, why counseling, right? We're about to start a new year, and that may be one of those New Year's resolutions that people have written down. They've got some unresolved personal issues that they just don't want to drag into the new year, or they don't want to drag them any further. So why counseling, Stephen?
Well, it can be good to have somebody outside of the family that can listen and perhaps provide some insight into what a person's going through. And also, unlike family, therapists, counselors, we're not permitted to tell anybody else, with the exception of if a person is a threat to themselves or to somebody else. So privacy is very well protected, and it's part of, what we do.
I talked to a friend of mine that said, I'm not going to talk to a counselor. I don't need to talk to a counselor. And I said, well, why not? And they said, they're just going to tell me the same thing you're telling me. And I said, I'm not a counselor. So, what's the difference there between a best friend that you talk to and a professional counselor?
Well, we set goals. It's not just advice. What is it a person wants to work on, and how do we get there? And there are different therapeutic approaches, but the end goal is to make quality of life better and to help the person resolve what they want to work on, and maybe even provide some insight into why they're behaving the way they are.
And there's no judgment, of course,
No, absolutely not.
and no bias, no partial.
No, we pride ourselves on being able to step back and look at the situation or situations from an objective standpoint. No, there's no judgment at all.
Hmm. And now you said that, part of your counseling approach, you all set goals. So, um, that's obviously individualized, but what are some of the benefits, if you can expand a little bit, what's the obvious benefit other than what you've already mentioned for somebody to go seek counseling?
Well, there's also some accountability. If you set a goal, every session is moving closer towards that goal. And so hopefully most times there'll be steps forward. Sometimes there may be no movement, but even in no movement, there's still movement. And we want to make things better. And having somebody to talk to and asking the person, okay, well, if you're not achieving your goal, what's getting in your way? Let's take those obstacles and figure out how to get over those.
And I know a lot of counseling too is self-realization. I mean, someone's not going to walk in the door and you're going to tell them what to do, right?
Oh, absolutely not. No. It's mutually agreed upon. Okay, what do you want to do? What are you willing to do? And what are you able to do? Because sometimes we know what we have to do. We know what we want to do. But at that time, we're not able to make those steps forward. So we decide, or the patient decides, and hopefully we facilitate smaller steps to get the best possible outcomes given the particular situation.
Usually the person that says, I don't want to go to counseling is probably the person that needs to speak to somebody in counseling, right?
We all need somebody to talk to, and it's good to have somebody that this is what they do for a living. I mean, we're very well trained. We've been to the university for long amounts of time, some of us longer than others. And, this is what we do. It's our passion, and it's why we're here.
Somebody that's obviously non-biased and they're removed completely from the dynamic of that person's life. They only see you for whatever that session is, right?
Yes, about an hour, maybe a little bit less than an hour.
So an hour, that's a very small investment of time for somebody that really wants to put in the work to work on something.
Absolutely.
Now,
And I
I'm
was going to
sorry.
say, if somebody shows up, comes in, decides that, hey, counseling is not right for them, no problem.
Mhm.
And if you don't particularly care for the therapist that you're with, we'll do everything we can to find somebody that you do click with, because you, the patient, is in charge of, improving your situation. We're just here to facilitate that.
Yeah, like we mentioned, there's a lot of self-discovery there. So, the patient obviously has to be a good fit with the therapist or the person that's working with them. So otherwise you may never meet those goals.
Absolutely.
Now, I gave you a scenario earlier about someone that says, I don't need to go see Stephen. What you're telling me is what I need to do. There's a lot of misconceptions about counseling. So I'm sure you've heard some of them. So what are some of them? Why would people be reluctant to go, or what's a misconcept about counseling?
Well, the one I hear all the time is, I'm not crazy. I don't think I need counseling because, I'm not crazy or, I don't want to get sent to a hospital somewhere. And nothing could be farther from the truth. Most of us have issues. And sometimes, like I said, just coming out and being able to talk to somebody, and having that validation of, okay, I feel like I'm going crazy, but I'm not. These are pretty common stressors that most people go through.
Okay, so somebody says, okay, you got me, Stephen. I'm convinced. I'm not putting it off any longer. I'm going to go talk to a counselor. So what can they expect when they walk in the door for a counseling session?
Basically, they come in, they sit down, and they talk to me just like you and I are talking. Why are you here? How can we help? What's going on in life? Share with me whatever you feel comfortable, anything you don't feel comfortable, or if I ask any questions that you don't feel answering, let me know.
Now, can you kind of give an overview, maybe some of the different areas that you counsel or help people with?
Depression, anxiety, elevated levels of stress. For some people, it can be the obstacles of quitting an addiction, alcohol, tobacco, family problems, toxic relationships, really pretty much the gambit of, issues and problems that we all face.
PTSD, any of those types of things?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, I know most companies probably they have some kind of service through their employer, like that can refer them. Like we do here, we have an employee assistance program that's available for our employees. But if you don't work for a company that has something like that, what are some of the resources that people can reach out for counseling?
Well, of course, they can come see us. The only thing that we like to have done is for folks to see one of our doctors first, make sure that they're medically sound. Because as good as therapy is, if there are medical issues that might require medication or treatment of some type, the therapy can only go so far. So first you need to be evaluated by one of our doctors, and then from there they'll refer to us. There are some other therapeutic resources. I think we mentioned in other sessions, other Wellness Wednesdays,
Yeah.
for example, Lifelines.
Mm-hmm.
As far as suicidal ideation, there is the National Suicide Hotline. If domestic violence is an issue, there are national numbers for that. And there are some private practice therapists out there. There are plenty of them. But, first off, and I am biased, I'd prefer that people come down here and see us.
Yeah. Yeah. If people came down to see you and, you weren't able to help them, like you mentioned, you're able to refer them to one of these other resources, or maybe there's another location that's closer to where they live or they work. So I mean, like you said, yeah, you're a little biased. You'd like to be able to help somebody, but ultimately, it's whatever's the best fit for the patient. That's what you're going to help them with.
Oh, absolutely. And if it is beyond the scope of practice here, where maybe there are those psychiatric issues that need to be dealt with, we'll do everything we can to facilitate a transition to different agencies.
And we'll post all of these resources with this video. Now, in just a few days, it's going to be the new year. So if there's anybody out there that's wanting to set all of these goals for themselves for the new year, like everyone says, okay, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to exercise more, I'm going to read more, I think I'd probably throw into that mix, I'm having some problems, I need to speak to a counselor.
Absolutely. That's why we're here.
Well, Stephen, thank you for your time. Thank you for your input. Always valuable resource for us here at Family Health. And thanks again for being on Wellness Wednesday.
Thank you.